Welcome to Catch Some Soulshine today. I am joined with Andrea Chase. I met her on LinkedIn, of all places, and she runs a digital marketing company. But it didn't come easy, as we were talking about before we started recording. Andrea has been through some really challenging shifts when she finally got into this job. And we're going to just talk about it because, listen, no matter what life throws at you, you have something waiting for you on the other side. And I'm actually finding that out right now. I just resigned from my very lucrative position with no job, but I'm going to follow my heart. And so I have a lot to learn from Andrea. So give them a little bit more background about you and we'll dig right in.
Well, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And thank you so much for having me, Dawn. As you said, it's been a little bit of a journey and not always an easy path to get here. But in short, I've been an entrepreneur in Canada here for about a decade plus, which when I say that, I find it even hard to believe myself. I have an educational background in psychology as well as business management. And by the end of graduating from college with that small and medium enterprise management diploma, I knew that I was very interested in business management and becoming a business owner, but I had a lot of self doubt. I was not confident and I didn't feel like I was ready to jump in. I felt like I need more work experience. So that's what I did. I went out there and I was trying to find a full time role to get some experience in either marketing or sales, business or relations in some kind. And I really struggled with that. So I did what we have to do. And I piecemealed together three different part time roles, working at the YMCA, working as a caterer for a professional catering company, and teaching English as a foreign language privately, which is another skill set that I have in another former life of mine. And then all along the way, connections that we make are so powerful, as I'm sure we can all agree. It was somebody in my network, a friend of mine, who said, I know you're really unhappy. There's a full time role that's come up. I know it's not in your industry, it is program management. It's for a seniors rehabilitative exercise program. And she said, I think you would be great at it. And I think you'd be happier than what you're doing now. So I did the interview, I got the role, and I really enjoyed that. I mean, did I think I was going to stay there forever? Probably not, but I soaked in all of the experience that I could from that. And about a year and a half into that, it being funded by the federal government, or the provincial government rather, the funding to the program was cut. And so I was out of a job again. I felt like, gee, I'm back to square one. I felt so defeated. I felt like all my experience and my education hadn't really served me very well up until that point. But all the while, my partner and I had been talking about starting our own company. He's got a background in IT. I've got this business background, really have a passion for marketing. And I had learned how to write professional business plans, a skill that I had learned in business school. So we ended up taking the plunge at that point. And looking back, it was terrifying, but it was probably the best business decision or professional decision, I should say, that I ever made. I didn't know it at the time, but I'm so glad that I took that leap and jumped in. And when we first launched Bates Global Incorporated 13 years ago, we eased into the process. But when I finally started getting clients through the door, I was writing professional business plans for startup companies and entrepreneurs, really with big visions and big dreams, and just wanted to help them get something tangible to help them move their company forward. And to this day, these are my kind of people, the people that are big dreamers, who have great ideas, that want to make the world a better place. So that's how I started off. And all along the way, Bates is chugging along. We're growing little by little. And another idea was unexpectedly born. in about 2016, and that was Pro Cabbie Limited. That was a journey and a half itself. I always say I belly flopped myself into that, Dawn. I did not come from that space. It was the professional taxi and limousine chauffeur space, but people ask me all the time, why did you do that? How did you get into that business? And it really was inspired by a personal situation. We have a very close family member who was a professional chauffeur, still is to this day, was an immigrant to Canada, and unfortunately was at and past retirement age, but couldn't afford to retire because his taxi medallion had become practically worthless because of the implementation of ride sharing. So Bates kept chugging along, but I really pivoted and really focused on Pro Cabbie. All of that to say, my love for marketing was growing the entire time. We did not have a budget to hire external help for Pro Cabbie for marketing, but that was a key piece to that puzzle. And so we were doing it all in house ourselves. We brought in some co ops, interns, some students, and we just hit the ground running. And I was getting so much positive feedback from people on the outside asking me who was doing our marketing and letting me know that they really enjoyed what we were putting out there. And my response was always very truthful. We're doing it ourselves. We don't really have the option. So I always had for a long time this desire to incorporate a digital marketing suite into Bates Global's service offerings, aside from IT and business analysis, but I really didn't have the bandwidth. And so fast forward to last fall, about a year ago now, unfortunately, the very difficult decision had to be made to cease operations of Pro Cabbie. But as Pro Cabbie was going out the door, digital marketing suite Marketingverse was coming in. So it was a very interesting transition. And that's what brings me to where I am today.
Yeah, that's incredible. And the thing that really resonates with your story is the fact that our journey is just that. It's a journey, right? I've had so many different jobs along the way. I mean, really from waitressing to nursing to working in the hotel industry to
Yeah.
nurse practitioner to artist to writer. And none of it I could have envisioned. I just keep doing the next right thing and following my heart. And when something doesn't go exactly as I planned or as I wished, or I don't feel fulfilled or valued in a certain position, I move on and I cut my losses. And I'm going through an experience right now where um, I have a very lucrative job and I love the people that I serve, but and it was a really difficult decision, but the environment was not conducive to the person that I am today because I've done a lot of self-healing and I didn't feel valued,
Mhm.
quite simply. Even though I was being paid very well, I did
Yeah.
not feel valued. So I just made the decision to resign. And I don't really have, I didn't have a plan B. I just knew that that was not the direction for me. And since I have closed that door, new opportunities are arising. And that's
Yeah.
how it is, really. If you just take that leap of faith and do what you know is right for you, I do believe you open the door for bigger, brighter things that are aligned with your spirit and soul. But that's not to say that it's not hard. Really, really hard. I've gone through a lot of sleepless nights. And and honestly, there's a lot of things about that job that I absolutely loved.
Mhm. Yeah.
But if you don't take that leap of faith, you're never going to know.
That's right. I was
Mhm.
just thinking that. That's the wording I would use as well, and I love how you said, along the way, you're making the next best decision. I like how you express that, and I think
Mm.
that's right. Planning can be very important in visualization and goal setting, but we have to be able to tweak things along the way, don't we?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. My whole dream, I went back to school at 45, I got my master's degree, I went back again and got my nurse practitioner, and I thought, "This is it. This
Yeah.
is what I'm gonna be the rest of my life," but things change. When I went to school for nursing, I thought, "This is it. I wanna be a nurse the rest of my life," but
Mm.
things changed,
Mhm.
and I was just talking to somebody the other day. When my kids were really little, I applied for this school nurse position, and
Mm.
I had my bachelor's degree. I was very qualified for the job, but somebody else got it that, knew somebody.
Mhm.
And I was devastated. I was like, how could they give that job to somebody else when I am qualified for this position, right? And I had to work through that.
Yeah.
And what you don't know then, had I gotten that job, I wouldn't have gone back to school and
Yeah.
gotten my master's. I wouldn't have gotten my nurse practitioner, which has served me very well. And I wouldn't be where I'm at right now, you know? So
Yeah.
all these little failures or setbacks, really, I think they're all part of the plan, the bigger picture that we can't see when
Yes.
we're in the middle of it, you know? So I think,
Exactly.
like, for you, losing your business, that was maybe your baby per
It
se,
was. It was. Yeah,
mhm,
definitely.
um, is opening the door for something bigger and brighter that you could have never realized had you still been putting all your energy into that project, so
Yes, thank you for saying that. That is 100% how I feel, but it took some time to accept that reality. The conversation obviously came up more than once about the reality that things were not moving in the right direction. We had bootstrapped that entire company ourselves and, really grinded it out. But we had a very challenging time getting outside investment. And then you're trying to do something so massive and on a large global scale. And that is super challenging. I'm not going to tell people not to try these things because I think that now I can say this, having been removed for a while, I can say, I am so grateful that I went through that. But initially, I was upset, devastated, resentful. I felt lost, and I was trying to put on a brave face. And a lot of people in my network who found out about this. Initially, I didn't even want to tell anybody. But then when I started opening up to people about it, I got a lot of responses that had the heart in the right place, but I wasn't ready to receive that. Oh, you must have learned a lot. At least you tried, these lessons learned, no one can take that away from you. And while that is all 100% factual and true, I was just not ready to receive that. So I'm
mhm,
grateful that I've come out the other side. And I think having these conversations about what didn't work is just as powerful as the conversations about when it did.
mhm. Yeah, who I can't remember who it is. Not a great quoter, but I do remember the message is that most famous, wealthy, very successful entrepreneurs
Mhm.
have had several failures along the way. But
Exactly.
what separates the successful entrepreneur from the non-successful is we keep trying,
Yeah.
Something doesn't
Yeah.
work, we tweak it, we go back. But what you said was really important about feeling your feelings and working through that because, like the name of this podcast, awakening brilliance after life's darkest moments. you can't skirt around those dark moments. You can't just bury those feelings. You have to feel them for a little bit
Mhm.
and work through them. And
Yeah.
honestly, that's what got me into the creative practices that I use every single day, writing. And then I ended up in 3 international best-selling books, uh,
Amazing.
drawing, and then I've sold art all over the United States and actually internationally as well.
Oh,
So
wow.
if I had not experienced this really horrific trauma and grief,
Mhm.
and then reached deep inside and did some things to work through that, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. Now,
That's right.
do I
Like
want do I wish I had didn't have the trauma and the grief? Honestly, yeah, probably.
mhm.
But that's not the point. The point is, what do you do with that stuff, right?
That's right. Yeah,
Mm,
I think it's really important, even though it is difficult. Like I sort of said, I didn't want to tell people the reality initially because I felt a lot of shame. And I thought I was going to be viewed as this failure and all these things. Whereas I was so surprised how people, when I was ready to receive it, responded and provided that support and made me feel like it is okay. And it helped me realize that I really did do something quite large and massive that has impacted me, not just professionally, but personally in a way I never could have imagined. I mean, I still, even though that venture didn't work out, I still obviously wish the best for those people. And I met so many incredible people along the way. You know, my network is made up of amazing women and men as well who are in different business ventures. Some are in the tech space, and I always had joked, half joked, I guess I would say, about becoming a woman in tech by accident. But having gone through that, now some of these people are the ones that I want to work with with marketing verse, right? So it's all coming around kind of full circle.
mhm.
And I could have never imagined it. Like you said, there's no way you could ever predict how you're going to feel on the other side of it. But once you go through those trenches, you really can amaze yourself what you're capable of. And I'm sure you're a great testament to that for all of the things that you've experienced.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that's spot on. Um, why don't you tell, our listeners a little bit about what you do with your current company now?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So, Bates Global, like I kind of mentioned before, it stands for Business Analysis and IT Solutions. So, we have been very heavily focused on IT consulting. We are in the National Capital Region of in Canada. So, there's a lot of interesting government contracting opportunities here. So, that's some of what we do. Business analysis shows up in different forms. Like I said, there was the business planning process, but that's a little bit of a thing of the past with our offering. And today, we also have a big focus on digital marketing solutions for small and medium enterprises. And we are open to government contracting in that domain as well. Our big focus right now is women in business, solopreneurs, women in tech. But you don't have to be those things. Really, we have carved out a solution with Marketing Verse. There's a lot of marketing agencies out there, obviously, but we really wanted to focus on what I believe we really excel at. And that primary offering is done for you solutions for social. So it's content creation from the beginning to the end, whether that's in video format or still format, creating all of the copy that's associated with that. In addition to that, we do offer professional voiceover services for businesses, whether you want that for your website, some promotional material, or your social media. We offer marketing and branding consulting, which is with myself at this time, and brand kits as well as brand audits. So, there are a couple of other things, but we really wanted to hone in and, no disrespect to any other organization out there, but we can't do everything well. So we wanted to really reduce that laundry list. So we're really specialized in that. And on top of it, the price point arguably is very, very affordable compared to some of the other competitors. Marketing can become quite costly, especially for somebody who's starting out or somebody who is a one person show. So our prices really are reflective of that. We want them to keep them that way. And it will cost you less to engage with us than to hire an in house employee. And so that's what we really wanted to do for people that weren't ready to bring on somebody full time. It kind of functions in some senses depending what package you go with, like a fractional sort of CMO. There's sort of that big trend right now. And that's a little bit of what we're doing. Obviously, along with the content creation comes all of the things around branding, your marketing, and psychology. So, because I do have a background in psychology with my education, we really do try to incorporate that into the material we're creating.
I think it's fabulous that you are focusing on women entrepreneurs because all the things that you're talking about are things that typically women don't have the upper hand on, right? I mean, um, we're kind of new to this kind of stuff. And so to help women with all these marketings in the digital space is such a wonderful growing market right now. I do think that it's the wave of the future.
Mhm.
Um, it's the area that I'm going to be focusing on with my entrepreneur business. So I think what you have is a wonderful service to help people grow if this is what they want to do. And not everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur
That's right.
because it takes a lot of heart and soul
Yep.
and determination and you have to love what you're doing. It's not really, I mean, yes, we definitely need to make an income to,
Of
support
course.
ourselves, and I do believe that a an abundant income is called for, but that can't be the driving force.
That's very well pointed. Yes, I
Yeah.
agree with that. Yeah, and it's exciting to see more women stepping out into their entrepreneurial power, if we can say that.
Yeah.
And, I love hearing all the innovation that is coming out and the fact that this has become, more of a trend now. I mean, I was talking to somebody about that not that long ago with regards to the fact that even 5 years ago, we did not have the number of entrepreneurs out there that we do now. I think, obviously a lot has happened with the global landscape over the last 4 to 5 years, but I think it's really inspiring. And I love that people can create their business and their work life on their own terms. I think that that is one of the most, amongst many other reasons, I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship, but I think that that's one of the most amazing things about it is you can create this around your life. You can make your priorities what you want them to be. If you need to take a day off or you need, a mental wellness day, you can do that. You are your own boss. So I think
Mhm.
that that's very empowering in a lot of ways.
Absolutely, and the other point I wanna make is I did this entrepreneur business, as a side gig
Hmm.
for a couple of years
Right.
before now I'm focusing on this as my primary, passion, but it's
Hmm.
a nice little side gig, you know?
Yeah.
Like you said, you can fold it into the, fabric of your life, and it
Hmm.
can work however much or however little you want it to. So it's a
Exactly.
great opportunity, and I do encourage people to get a little, side gig, you know?
Yeah.
Even if you don't wanna do it full time, get something what are you passionate about? What do you
Hmm.
love? My husband, he's a knitter, and I'm
Love
always
it.
telling him, you should do like a YouTube channel about knitting. I said,
Yeah,
people
why
love
not?
that stuff,
Oh,
you know?
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
especially if it's a little bit unique or different. Like, here is this, uh, he's an ex-football player,
Oh
uh,
my goodness, I love
attorney,
that.
and this is his passion is knitting.
I
So,
love
I
that.
mean, it's
Yeah,
great. So, there's just ample opportunity, and, I can't stress enough how important it is to follow those passions and dreams and do what makes you happy. All
I
right.
agree.
So,
I love
I
that.
want to have your information in the comments if anybody would need a little bit of guidance or help, and they can
Mhm.
contact you and get some information about what you offer in specific for their needs. What is that for them? And I'll add it to the comments as well.
LinkedIn is one of the biggest ways that we show up and where we are connecting with amazing people. And Instagram, it's fun on there. So if anybody wants to check that out, we're still growing our Instagram. But yeah, I would love to connect with anybody. I'm an open book. I always say that. So even if they don't want to talk business, they just want to say hello, the door is open, and I would
Mhm.
love to hear from them.
Yeah, and I do have to mention that your visuals that I mean, I have been drawn to them. They're just awesome,
Thank
I
you.
just really
Thank you.
captivating. So,
I
check that
appreciate
out
it.
and see what you think because it is very, eye-catching, the things
Thank
that you
you.
use, so
Thank you so
alright.
much for that beautiful feedback. I really appreciate that, Dawn. And
Mhm.
thank you for this lovely conversation on this Friday. It was really, really wonderful to connect with you
Yeah,
today.
you
And
too. I'm glad we got to have this chat. And the only thing I want to say to the listeners is leave us a comment, rate the podcast, share it with your friends because you never know who may need to hear what we've talked about. Um, and if you want to start your own personal self healing journey, I will have my Freedom Journal, which is a free download, in the comments as well. And thanks for joining us today on this episode of Catch Some Soulshine. I will see you next week.